Completing the square is a technique for solving quadratic equations, especially quadratic equations that are not factorable. But even if they are factorable, you can still use this to solve it. When you have a quadratic equation in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, completing the square can be done with the following steps. First, you divide both sides of the equation by a to make sure that the leading coefficient is 1. If it's already a 1, you don't need to do this step. Second, you need to move the c term over, the constant term, by either adding or subtracting. Next, you need to take b and multiply it by 1/2 and then square it. 4, you're going to add the result from step 3 to both sides of the equation. Step 5, factor the left side and combine the terms on the right side together. Finally, you're going to apply the square root property to solve the equation. So it's a lot of steps to go through. Let's see it in action. So first we have x squared minus 2x equals 8. Our leading coefficient is a 1, so we don't have to divide it over. Our constant term 8 is already on the other side, so we don't have to move it over. So we could jump into the next step and take our b term, which is -2, and I'm going to take it off to the side to do this. So -2, I'm going to multiply by 1/2, and I'm going to get -1. Now, I like to box this in for later, and you'll see why in a little bit. But once I box it in, I'm going to square it, and I'm going to get +1. So this is my result from, I believe, step 3. Yep. So this is my result from step 3 is what the square equals. So now I'm going to go back to my quadratic equation, x squared minus 2x, and I'm going to add 1 to the left side and to the right side. So I keep the equation balanced. Now I need to factor this. Now you can go through the steps of how to factor it, but there's a short, simple way. The left side will always factor down to a single parenthesis squared with the variable in the front and whatever is in this box in here. So since it's a -1, it's -1. That's it. And then combine common terms over here, 9. Now I gotta get rid of the square, so I'm going to square root both sides, like so. And I'm going to end up with x minus 1 equals ±3. Now I'm going to add 1 over, so x is going to equal 1 ± 3. And this is technically the answer, but because there's no square roots involved, we're going to go one more step further. Again, plus or minus is shorthand for 1 being a positive and 1 being a negative. So 1 plus 3 is 4, 1 minus 3 is -2, and these are our two solutions to this equation, +4 and -2. Next, x squared plus 6x minus 8 equals 0. Again, my leading coefficient's a 1, don't need to do anything with that, but I have a -8 here, so I need to move it over to get the constant by itself. So x squared plus 6x, and I'm going to add the 8 over, so I'm going to get equals 8. Again, I'm going to take my b term, which is 6, off to the side, multiply it by 1/2, and I'm going to get 3, box it in for later, square it, and I'm going to get 9. So 9 is my result, so I'll add it to both sides of the equation. So x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 9 plus 8. I need to factor the left side, which I know to just be a single parenthesis squared. My x goes in front, and in my box is a +3, so I put a +3. And it's equal to 17. Take the square root of both sides. Square root and square cancel out, leaving you x plus 3. And on the right side, you get plus or minus, and root 17 cannot be simplified, so we leave it as root 17. Finally, subtract a 3 over to get away from x. So x equals -3 plus or minus the square root of 17. This, unlike the other one, can be left as is. You don't need to break up into 2, but if you do, it's not incorrect. Last, we have 3x squared minus 6x minus 15 equals 0. So my leading term is a 3. My leading coefficient is 3, so I need to divide all of the equation by 3. So when I do that, I'm going to get x squared minus 2x minus 5 equals 0. Next, take my constant term, move it over, so x squared minus 2x equals 5. Take my middle term b off to the side, multiply it by a half, and I'm going to get -1. Box it in for later and square it, and get +1 as my result. I will add that +1 to both sides, like so. I will factor the left-hand side as a single parenthesis squared with an x, and what's in the box goes right here. And then 1 plus 5 is 6. From here, again, to get rid of a square, I will square root. Square and square root cancel, leaving you x minus 1 equals plus or minus square root of 6. And then finally, add the 1 over to get x by itself. X equals 1 plus or minus square root of 6. Again, you can't combine them, so this answer can be left as is. And this is the solution to this equation.